Shalom, I'm Rabbi Jonathan Ginsburg of the Ezra Habonim Niles Township Jewish Congregation. This continues my video series on Jewish values, starting with Jewish value 28. And you'll see how all of these have in common the basic notion that we're made in God's image, tselem elokim. And so we'll begin with that idea, value number 28, tselem Elohim. It says in the beginning of the creation story, when God is pondering the creation of humanity, it says, "Let us make man in our image according to our likeness." Now, who is the we? Well, in Jewish tradition, some people say that's the royal we, God's talking with himself. Others say God is talking to the angels. Another real possibility is that the only beings in the garden at that time are animals, and so God is speaking to the animals, saying, we'll make man in our image. They'll have me, tselem Elohim, they'll be made in my image, and they'll also be you, they'll be mammals, and that's what we are. So what does it mean that we're made in God's image? That goes back to the very first value I talked about, the idea that all human beings are worthy and deserving of dignity just by virtue of the fact that we're made in God's image. And that leads to number 29, the Torah prohibiting in Leviticus 19 for us to stand by idly while the blood of our neighbor is spilled. Lo ta'amod al dam re'echa. Jews must actively intervene. The Christians have this idea of Good Samaritan. Well, thousands of years before that in the Torah, it commands us to be a Good Samaritan in the sense of we cannot stand idly by while someone is being hurt. It's the Jewish need to be active, to actively preserve people if we can without endangering our life. And that leads to value number 30 of sakanat nefesh. We don't have to do anything that's going to endanger our lives. And that's the only time that we're not forced by Jewish law to intervene to help someone. But we shouldn't be doing anything to endanger our lives, whether it's taking care of our health, putting ourselves in dangerous situations, but sakanat nefesh. In fact, this is often invoked in regard to the Sabbath. Jewish tradition says that a Jew should rest on the Sabbath and not work. But what happens if doing something to save your life and health would mean violating the Sabbath? The Torah specifically says, Judaism says, better to violate one Sabbath to live another. Because the Torah says, chai bahem, that you should live by them. And so value number 30 is sakanat nefesh. And that goes to value number 31, ushmartem et nafshotechem. Ushmartem, to guard, et nafshotechem, et your nefesh. We must do everything we can to stay healthy. As you can probably tell from these videos, I'm a bit overweight. I used to be much more overweight. I'm working very hard at it, going to work out every day. God bless my wife who cooks only healthy food and continues to remind me to eat healthily. Jews are not permitted to smoke, or at least excessively, because it might endanger your health. We can't do anything in excess. Drinking, anything that would be harmful. We should do everything we can to protect and guard our health, spiritual as well as physical. And that leads to another basic principle of the Torah, lifnei iver lo titein michshol. We're not allowed to put a stumbling block before the blind. Now, this has to do with guarding our health too. We should avoid situations where if we're addicted or habituated to do things that would be harmful, stay away from places where you know there'll be a lot of alcohol served if you have that tendency, or there'll be a lot of food served. We're not allowed to keep saying, as the bubbies used to say, SSS, eat, 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 because the problem today really is not that we're not eating enough. And so we must not put a stumbling block before the blind. It would mean if, in any case, people are tended to have a weakness, not to do anything to hurt them in that way. In fact, the Torah says in the next value that we must put a parapet on our roof. We must do everything we can to make sure that people don't get hurt. It's the same concept that American law later evolved about attractive nuisance. If you have a swimming pool in your backyard, you have to enclose it because you don't want people just stumbling into your pool and hurting themselves. You must do everything. Why do we have to clean off our sidewalks when it snows and it's ice? We have to do everything we can to make sure that other people are not hurt. And so these all stem from the very first value that I started with of tselem Elohim. So let's just review these values. Tselem Elohim, that is that we're made in the image of God. Al ta'amod al dam re'echa, we're not allowed to stand idly by while the blood of our neighbor is spilled. Lifnei iver lo titain michshol. We must not put a stumbling block before the blind in any way. We must build a parapet on our roof when we build something, and so that means that we have to protect others from our property. We must do nothing to endanger our health, a sakanat nefesh, put ourselves in danger. In fact, it's expressed in the positive value of ushmartem et nafshotechem, to guard our souls and our bodies. And so these values all stem from the idea of tselem Elohim, that we are made in God's image. We must help ourselves and help others and build a wonderful society and a great life. L'chaim. Rabbi Ginsburg of the Niles Jewish congregation. I'm continuing my video class on Jewish values. This will cover Jewish values from 15 to 21. They all have the same idea. They're all about tzedakah, gemilut chasadim. Based on the value we've already learned about chesed and rachamim, mercy and compassion, these are the ways in which the Jewish people, historically, from the Bible on, have reached out to help the unfortunate, the poor, and the needy. First of all, we have the term tzedakah, which of course does not mean charity, which is the Greek word based on the word for love, but the Hebrew word from tzedek. Hello, I'm Rabbi Ginsburg of the Niles Jewish congregation in Stoughton, Illinois. This continues our video series on Jewish values, starting with value number 22. The general category of all of these values